Does it matter that Reacher follows a different timeline to the books? When Lee Child wrote the first Jack Reacher novel, Killing Floor, in 1997, he wasn't sure whether the character would find an audience. He didn't have to wait long. The book and the series that followed created an enormous and dedicated following. Since that time, the books have spawned 2 movies and a hit show, Reacher, which has just finished its 2nd season. However, eagle-eyed viewers will note that the 2 seasons, which each cover 1 book of the series, are not actually in order. But why? And does it actually matter? The Killing Floor and Bad Luck and Trouble. The first thing to note is that although Season 1 of Reacher follows Book 1, Killing Floor, the 2nd season follows Bad Luck and Trouble, the 11th book in the series. The 2 books follow Reacher through 2 very different points in his life and 2 very different situations. The first, Killing Floor, introduces the character and his wandering life that is taking him across the U.S. on foot and by bus. He has his clothing, his toothbrush, and a few dollars, and that's it. He is a hulking man with a solitary disposition. When he steps off the bus in Margrave, it is simply due to his desire to see the home of a famous blues musician. However, his run-in with the law, his ability to assess and assist, and the identity of a murdered man all come together to give us a rounded-out version of a man who presents as the most alpha of males. However, he is not above kindness and the need to watch over those who need help. The second book, Bad Luck and Trouble, takes place years later when Reacher receives word that members of his old unit, the 110th, are dying or disappearing. He teams up with the available members, and they work together to solve the mystery. This story gives us insight into Reacher's past in the Army and shows us the types of people he trusts with his life. He may be a loner at heart, but he knows how to rally his troops and be the leader they need when the moment presents itself. The 2 books are great starting points for learning about the character, and it is no wonder that these were the 2 that were chosen for the initial seasons of Reacher. Here's the thing, Reacher doesn't need to follow a linear timeline whatsoever. His story can be told in a variety of different ways. Just because the series decided to handle Book 11 doesn't mean that they can't go back and fill in the gaps, or that the pieces of different books cannot be melded to create some amalgamated narrative. The other piece of the book series is that, although it is technically linear, that linearity is only seen when certain characters pop up from time to time. In many cases, the stories themselves can exist at any point they want. Therefore, with only slight retooling, the entire series could, for the most part, be augmented and swapped around with no real need for the original timeline. Many people will come to the book series from the streaming series. The books are still being written, and Child himself has written stories that take place before the events of previous books. His latest book, The Secret, takes place in 1992, which makes it, chronologically, the 2nd story following Killing Floor. Writers who create specific characters often write them chronologically. But after a while, their audiences want to know more about their history and more than just flashbacks. Therefore, they begin writing full stories to either fill in gaps or jump fully into the unexplored past. It can be quite the whirlwind when authors find a character that resonates with their audience. The adaptation of Reacher from page to screen has stirred up excitement and curiosity among fans of Lee Child's popular book series. With the show's release, one of the most prominent discussions has revolved around its deviation from the timeline and structure of the original novels. As with any book-to-screen adaptation, the challenge of balancing faithfulness to the source material with the needs of a new medium has led to inevitable changes. But does it truly matter that Reacher follows a different timeline than the books? Let's delve into the pros and cons of this decision and explore its impact on the viewing experience. Staying true to the spirit of Reacher. One of the strongest arguments in favor of the show taking creative liberties with the timeline is that it remains true to the spirit of the character, Jack Reacher, and the general tone of the books. Reacher, as a character, is a drifter and a former military policeman with a sharp mind and formidable physical prowess. His no-nonsense approach to solving problems, combined with his unshakable sense of justice, makes him one of the most memorable characters in modern thriller literature. In this sense, the show captures the essence of who Reacher is, even if it plays fast and loose with the chronology of the books. Fans of the series are drawn to Reacher's personality and actions, and as long as the show delivers on those fronts, it arguably doesn't matter if the timeline is adjusted. After all, the essence of Reacher's appeal lies in his unique brand of justice, his sharp intellect, and his brutal efficiency in dealing with bad guys. As long as the show stays true to these core aspects, many fans are likely willing to overlook changes in the order of events or narrative details. The nature of television adaptations. Television is a fundamentally different medium than literature, and with that comes the need for adaptation. While books can dive deep into the internal thoughts and backstories of characters, TV shows need to convey information visually and in a way that keeps viewers engaged. This means that pacing, narrative arcs, and character development often need to be restructured. In the case of Reacher, the producers may have chosen to alter the timeline to ensure a more cohesive and compelling television experience. Some books in the series contain slower moments that may not translate well to a visual medium, so streamlining the plot or combining elements from different novels might enhance the pacing and make the show more engaging for viewers unfamiliar with the books. Additionally, television allows for a certain level of unpredictability that books don't always provide. By shifting the timeline and pulling from different parts of the series, the show can surprise even die-hard fans. This can create a sense of excitement and novelty, as even those who have read all the books can experience something new in the series, rather than knowing exactly what's going to happen next. The emotional and thematic continuity. Even if the timeline isn't strictly followed, the emotional and thematic continuity of Reacher remains intact. Much of what makes the character and his stories compelling are the themes of justice, independence, and moral clarity. Reacher is a man who operates outside the system but adheres to a strict personal code. He is a protector of the innocent and a punisher of the guilty, and these themes resonate throughout both the books and the show. As long as the adaptation preserves these core elements, the timeline becomes less significant. Fans who love Reacher for his philosophy and his raw, action-packed encounters are likely to be satisfied with the show's interpretation, regardless of when or how specific events unfold. The risk of alienating hardcore fans. On the flip side, there's always the risk of alienating hardcore fans when an adaptation deviates from its source material. For many readers, part of the joy of seeing their favorite books come to life is the anticipation of seeing beloved scenes and moments recreated on screen. When the timeline is changed, it can disrupt that sense of familiarity and lead to disappointment. Some fans may feel that certain character developments or plot twists are more meaningful when they occur in a specific order. Altering the timeline can potentially dilute the impact of these moments. For example, Reacher's emotional growth and relationships with supporting characters build over time in the books. If the show reshuffles these developments, it may affect the emotional resonance for viewers who have followed Reacher's journey in the original novels. Conclusion: does it really matter? Ultimately, whether it matters that Reacher follows a different timeline depends on the viewer's perspective. For casual fans or those new to the character, the changes may be inconsequential as long as the show remains entertaining and true to the core of who Reacher is. For die-hard fans, however, deviations from the timeline might feel like a missed opportunity to see the books faithfully brought to life. That said, a successful adaptation isn't about slavish adherence to the source,